What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. You've probably seen Brian doing his Monday morning commute episodes, and I thought I would get in on that myself. I've got some stuff to talk about. I'm in my LX 570 right now, and it's not Monday, it's Sunday. I've got the kiddo with me heading to Costco. There she is. But Brian, he's been talking a lot about EVs, GM, Jeep, stuff that he's interested in. Like I said, I'm in my LX. I've become somewhat of a Toyota enthusiast since I've owned this car, and I get asked a lot about the new Land Cruiser, the new GX 550, 4Runner, Tacoma, stuff like that. And so I thought I would focus a little bit more on that stuff. But before I do that, I wanted to tell you about my LX 570, why I bought it, what my experience has been, and how that's influencing how I look at the new Land Cruisers and stuff. So, like the video, make sure you're subscribed to us, and let me know in the comments what your questions are about the new GX, the new Land Cruiser, all of that stuff coming up. Brian and I are headed to the Texas Truck Rodeo here in a few weeks. We're going to get to go hands-on with those vehicles. Let us know what you want to know about them and why you might be interested in them. So do that for us, subscribe, and we'll start the show. Okay, so why did I buy the LX 570 and why do I love it so much? So I bought this in 2021. Traded out my wife's minivan for this car. I was looking for a car that could get us out more. I wanted to be able to go camping, some light off-roading. My kids are starting to get older and I wanted to take them to cool places outdoors. And so I was looking at a car that could do that. But I really needed it to also be the family vehicle for various reasons. This car in the peak of COVID was close to $50,000. Now, I was also able to get an outrageous amount of money for our trade, so I would say it more than evened out. In fact, I probably came out a little bit ahead just because I was buying an older vehicle. So, values didn't inflate quite that much on something that was 9 years old at the time. But to get in budget, I was still looking at a car that was 9 years old. It had 75,000 miles on it. And, when I started looking at, adventure vehicles that were going to also get the nice things that were in our minivan that I was getting rid of, that was going to keep the wife satisfied, driving every day if needed. I was looking at luxury cars, something like a Jeep or a 4Runner wasn't going to cut it on that front. They weren't really going to be big enough for our family needs. And I was looking ahead to maybe needing to be able to tow stuff. And those vehicles weren't going to meet that need either. So, I started looking at these and, like I said, to get in budget, I was buying an older vehicle with a lot of miles. And now, okay, we've all heard that Toyota quality is legendary. That's great. But what does that really mean? These 200 series, the Land Cruiser, the LX 570, really even built to a higher standard than your standard Toyota or Lexus product, okay? Built with a 25-year life cycle. A lot of the powertrain is shared with the Toyota Tundra. There are other parts of the car that are built to a higher standard. Certainly the interior, supposedly built to a higher standard. I've heard this forever. But in reality, okay, if I'm spending this kind of money and I'm trying to look at the value that money provides, a big part of the equation on these cars is their longevity. And, I've never owned a car and taken it past 200,000 miles. You hear all the time, these can go 300, 400, 500,000 miles if you take care of them, right? And okay, that's fine, but I've been in cars with 200, 250,000 miles before. 10, 15 years old before. And yeah, they run. And if you take care of them and you love that car still, and you take pride in maintaining it at that kind of mileage, great. But very often those cars, if you haven't, let's say, owned them from nearly new, or owned them for the last 150,000 miles of their life and really taken care of them, been very proactive in things like suspension pieces and bushings and shocks and stuff like that, those cars are not very fun to drive. They're not very nice inside. You can tell immediately that it has got, a very well-worn interior. They're not very tight steering. They rattle a lot, stuff like that. And so, I had heard these are not really like that. So I got to looking around. I found one of these for sale near my house that was a 2010. So roughly as old as mine is now, back when I bought it. It had 225,000 miles on it. And I thought, let's go take a look at it and see exactly what we're talking about at that kind of mileage. And I got in the car, and within 10 seconds, I was blown away by it. Couldn't believe how nice the seats still felt with that kind of age. Was it an old-looking interior? Yes. Does it still look old and dated? Yes. But was it still nice? Was, all of the paint and dye and stuff on the leather and the dash and all that, was that peeling off or flaking off? No. Was all the switchgear still nice? Did it have a good feel to it? Did it still have all the paint on it? Could you still read the lettering? Yes. So I was extremely shocked by what I saw in the car, and even more shocked by what I felt when I drove it. The car felt tight as a drum. It felt like it had just, come off the showroom floor. And so, that gave me a lot of peace of mind in that I could buy this car. Like I said, I bought it with about 75,000 miles on it. I've got 119 almost on it now. They gave me a lot of peace of mind in that I could buy this car, and if I took care of it, not only would it take care of me in terms of starting up every day and going a lot of cool places and being very reliable, but it was also still going to be a nice car 5, 6, 7 years down the road. When I'd put more miles and other cars are really starting to show their age inside. This car, I've got oversized all-terrain tires on it. It's a little bit noisy, but still extremely quiet compared to almost anything you're going to buy off the showroom floor today. Doesn't squeak, doesn't rattle anywhere. So it's an extremely high quality car. And, if you've seen some of our other videos, I take care of it, but I use it the way it was intended. I am not babying this car, and it is still performing really well for us. So the other things that attracted me to the car, capability-wise, like I said, I wanted a car that was capable, but also it needed to be the family day in and day out car if needed, right? And so a huge part of that was the AHC system, the active height control. And, I'll probably do a whole other episode on that. But I'll tell you, the short of that episode is going to be stop deleting the AHC out of your LX 570. It is a huge plus for this car. It's been a huge plus for us. We drive it all over town. It's a very nice riding car. But it was still in normal height, pretty good ground clearance, right? Ground clearance absolutely equivalent of the 200 Land Cruiser that this is based on, right? Driving around town, they're exactly the same. But you get that added benefit of being able to lift this car on demand if you need it. When I'm towing heavy stuff, the suspension still rides really well because of the load handling capabilities of the AHC, and it's a very robust system. Um, you know, you hear a lot, oh, it's complicated. I'm buying a high mileage one. People just go into it with the mindset of, well, I'm probably just going to delete it. I'm going to put just regular coils in or whatever. Don't do that. Look at the service history of the car that you're buying. Make sure they've maintained it. You know, if you're buying it with only like 70, 80,000 miles, it's not too late. You can flush the fluid. Make sure you've maintained it. You can swap the globes out a few years later or whatever. You know, like I said, this is for another video, but it's a very good system. If you take care of it, it will take care of you, and it will go a lot of places. And so I had that in mind when I bought it, and it has absolutely exceeded my expectations in that regard. We've done a lot of cool stuff with it. So, you know, in fact, leading into what this video series is going to be about, we just got back from Colorado. We went, we towed a 6,000 pound, probably totally loaded out trailer, 30-foot camper, all the way over the pass from Durango to Silverton. Then from Silverton to Ouray on the $1 Million Road. This car handled it so well. You know, and so I was really impressed with it then. We've done some off-roading in it. This last trip, that wasn't really our focus, but we did spend some time on part of Imogene Pass, and frankly, some of the harder stuff from the Ouray side. And the car did great. We ran into a group of Toyota enthusiasts having what they call the Solid Axle Summit. It's all the old Land Cruisers, basically, or solid axle 4Runners, you know, all the way up through the 80 series, you know, every kind of solid axle Toyota you can think of. And we were waving a big group of them through, and one of the guys leaning out the window of his FJ40 said, hey, you know, you about to buy a GX 550? Because he sees this, you know, Lexus on the trail. It's like, ah, that guy must be interested in that, you know. And my answer was, no, probably not. In fact, if I'm going to replace this with something, probably going to buy another one. That's how much I love this car. So yeah, this thing is very, very capable. You know, like I said, we didn't finish the trail. I talked to a couple of 80 series guys for a while. You know, they were like, from where you stop, this is pretty much the hardest part of the trail, and it did great. So I'm on 33-inch tires. I could go bigger without much effort, but probably not going to. You know, I've got plans to re-gear, partly because I do tow some kind of heavy stuff sometimes. But, you know, this is probably one of the best all-around vehicles ever made. All right, it's got the V8 out of a half-ton pickup. All right, it's about a 7,000 pound towing capacity, and it will do every bit of that. Okay, this powertrain in a Toyota Tundra goes up to 10,000 pounds. Okay, so that derating of 3,000 pounds, mostly that comes from wheelbase, and to a lesser extent, I think the AHC system. Lexus doesn't want you, you know, overloading that, whereas the Toyota Tundra's got leaf springs and everything, and it's just made to be a half-ton pickup that can do those sort of things. But this car's got an incredibly tough powertrain that's way overbuilt for what this vehicle is, and so I'm planning to keep it for a long time. I'm really hoping that this is my daughter's first car when she turns, you know, I mean, that's still 7 or 8 years away, right? More than that, actually. So I'm talking about you. She's over here. But anyway, so yeah, that's why I love it. It's, like I said, exceeded my expectations completely. And, you know, I'll be doing other videos on this car. Let me know in the comments, what is your curiosity about the LX 570? I think right now, with all these other cars coming out, the new Land Cruiser, the GX 550, what they're doing with the Tacoma and the 4Runner, I think this is really one of the best, overland adventure vehicles on the market, especially in terms of value right now, because the next gen is coming out. Yeah, the tech's a little dated on this, but hey, I've got an Android Auto unit in here that works pretty well for me. And, you know, if I want to add a 360 camera or something like that, I can do that down the road. This is really doing everything that you could probably need it to do. And look, those vehicles are selling for a premium. They're priced, 80,000 plus. I think you're going to be able to get something like this, or its baby brother, the GX460, which is another car we like a lot. These platforms are about to become an outstanding value, you know, and that you could feel extremely comfortable buying one with a little bit of mileage on it and saying, I'm going to get just as much life out of this as I am out of a GX550 or something like that, that's newer. So, and that's not to say I don't like those vehicles. Like I said, we'll be coming up, we'll be seeing those, we'll be telling you what we think. Those look like phenomenal vehicles with more out of the box capability than this. But the dollar for dollar value is absolutely huge in this car. So, like I said, we'll be doing this series. Let me know what you're curious about with this car, with those that are coming out, and we'll be seeing you later on, guys. Thanks a lot.